start both of my timers as well.
There you go, you're up and running.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to get my timer started, and I am ready to go. I'm sure you can see my screen, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Ken Morrison. I am coming from Malaysia this morning. For me, it's Sunday morning, and I'll tell you what I learned from creating a very simple student wellness tracking system last school year. I want to start right away by saying that this was a team effort. Mr. Norman is our guidance counselor, and he came to me and Mr. Garcia, and we tried to come up with a plan to monitor how the students were doing last year in a way that wasn't going to spend tons of time crunching data all the time in the middle of our busy schedules. And as Simon Sinek says, start with why. Yes, sometimes we have to start with Wi-Fi, but our true why is our teens are tough, but they are also very good at hiding their emotions. And they need to know at a minimum that we care. And as schools, we should have an opportunity to be able to reach out to them. A year ago, we were basically celebrating our second week of very tentative restart. We had systematically started, and we had had everyone on campus for less than 2 weeks at this time last school year. In fact, I went 727 days teaching either online or hybrid classes. So that took a toll, of course, on our students and teachers, same as everywhere else in the world. Malaysia, in some ways, was more strict than some countries, but bottom line is we wanted to monitor our student wellness, stress level, etc. I want to let you know that this is a work in progress, and I also want to let you know that this is not my passion project. This was something that I simply saw a need and heard a need from Mr. Norman and others, and I knew that I had some skills that could help, but I am not extremely passionate about data and Google Sheets. I like Google Sheets, but I have not had the need to do this type of projects for a while. But basically 15 months ago, our Mr. Norman had come off of a call, and he was wondering, how might we create a system to monitor our students, how they're feeling, and to follow up with them and to offer support when needed? Mr. Norman had that question. Our school lost a lot of students during the pandemic. In Malaysia, it was hard. A lot of our students come from China, and it was just very difficult. So we did lose a lot of students. So with less than 200 secondary students in the last 15 months, without taking the survey every single month, we have 1,665 points of data. So the students have bought into the system. I'll show the system very soon, but basically big picture before we get lost in lots of cells. I will show basically what the system looks like. Basically in the homeroom, we have our Google Classroom, our Gmail link that comes from homeroom teachers, and the students spend about 5 minutes filling it out one Tuesday every month. On the same day that we give that out to students, I spend about 10 minutes working with the data a little bit, making sure everything seems right, making a new tab for Mr. Norman to explore and to track his follow-up, and to just make sure the conditional formatting is working fine, etc. And then that same week, Mr. Norman will spend approximately 2 to 5 hours with follow-up, monitoring the data, touching base with homeroom teachers, deciding what kind of follow-up is needed, the level of follow-up that might be needed, etc., communicating with emails and making notes in the Google Sheets. That same week, for roughly 5 to 10 minutes per student, the homeroom teachers are touching base with the students in our homerooms who have shared some concern at some level of concern anyway. And then, of course, if it's more stressful, either Mr. Norman immediately will ask for a meeting with the student through Google Meet, or the teacher can also refer them back to Mr. Norman. And then basically, again, after that meeting, roughly 5 minutes of a documentation, almost all in PowerSchool, with just a little bit of communication with Gmail and Google Sheets to keep students' information confidential so we don't accidentally project data, etc. And with that said, I'm going to be very careful. I'm not going to show my spreadsheet just because there's so much sensitive data in there. Big picture, if you choose to do this, you want to get extreme clarity. You want to spend time in advance deciding what you really need to include, and not asking data that you're not going to be able to take action on, and not asking for data that might actually overwhelm you or cause you to procrastinate. So you can see what we chose to do: email, classroom name, grade level, level of stress today, the hours of sleep, average per week, hours of homework average per week, general cause of stress that day, and overall feeling this week, and the overall feeling in the past 2 weeks. I'll show you an example soon. Basically, if you do this, you need to be sure that if a student reaches out, that you are taking action on that. For that reason, we chose to not have open-ended questions because that can cause much more time to go through the qualitative data. I meant to say, yeah, qualitative data. I'm going to show our thought process soon, but I'll come back to these slides. And I have some tips on this if you choose to do this. Big picture, with 1665 points of data from students. This is what we have. Of course, I covered up the emails and their names. But what you can see is with conditional formatting, I have it all set up. So green means things are going well. Red means the students are having an issue, having a concern. These are all through conditional formatting. I have it set up through anything where they list a 4 or 5 out of 5, that it automatically has a color highlighted to us. I'm still growing with formulas, and I'm learning that if you make a mistake on one cell, of course, that problem is going to multiply and compound. So I've been a little frustrated with myself, but it's also an opportunity for me to find my points of where I can grow. 15 months ago, as I said, I use Google Sheets, but at a fairly simple level. 15 months ago, I did not know how to link cells between sheets. I knew it was a Google search away, and I'd done it in the past, but I didn't know it off the top of my head. I was somewhat new to conditional formatting, and I had never heard of Splicer, the tool within Google Sheets, and I was out of practice of using fixed reference cells for formulas. Oops, that's kind of a repeat of that message. Splicer has been wonderful. If I have 1665, and quite honestly, I might be trying to take action in between classes or during a break, Splicer has been wonderful for me to condense 1665 things into following possibly one student. This is real data. Of course, you can't see anything about it, and nobody would be able to guess if they saw this presentation. But this was a student that we had a concern about, and you're able to see the last 15 months in a glance, as well as their self-reported level of stress each week. And if I was actually in the document, I could go into more detail for what they were concerned about. And when I say, I'll come back to that a little bit later when I talk about our thought process. Big picture, we wanted it to be short, simple feedback that we could take action on that day. And we could also get a pulse for the student body. We knew that open-ended questions were going to slow us down and make that quick, rapid response delayed. We wanted less than 10 descriptors. I think we started with about 20, and we narrowed it down to basically 5 for how they're feeling this week and 5 for how they're feeling the last 2 weeks. And let me tell you a little bit more. Potentially controversial if you choose to do this, make sure you talk to your teachers in advance. We chose to list every department as far as what was causing them the most stress. If you're a stressed out teacher, that could almost feel like an open invitation for administration. I am not senior leadership. Open invitation for senior leadership, trying to get data on how happy students are in every single class. But if you get ahead of it and really communicate why you're doing that, that can be helpful. What we chose to do is we chose to also say, is it any school policies that is also causing you stress? So we chose to have that as its own category. And we thought that that kind of helped relieve that potential concern. I think you can understand how that might be a potential issue in some schools when teachers are already concerned and stressed and going through a pandemic themselves with their family. And basically also have a plan if it's all okay. If students are feeling fine, don't force them to tell you where they're stressed if they're not stressed. We chose to have very, very few required answers, which I think is wise. So if a student only wants to tell you basically one thing that day, don't force them to just click, click, click and give you garbage data for them to submit the one thing that they want to share. I would also suggest that I didn't say having a very small window of opportunity for students to be reaching to for knowing when it's open. The last thing you want is them trying to reach out for help maybe 10 days after the window closes and then finding out 15 days later when you're going to ask the next month. to find out, wow, this student's been struggling for 15 days. They tried to reach out for us and we weren't there. So either close that form, maybe at the top you say, this form is only open during this day. If you need any help, please reach out to the counselor, your homeroom teacher, or someone else that cares. Those are some things that I would consider doing. All of that's quite honestly setting the groundwork. Most of us know how to set up a nice Google form. I won't talk about that. And then in Google Sheets, I'll talk about the topic, but not the how-to. Conditional formatting is how I got those color codes. So as soon as a student entered something and it was fixed Google form with a limited scope of what they could respond, we could quickly have a color-coded pulse of how the school feels, and we could take action on that. Splicer is also nice. I did not know about that until winter break last school year. I'm not sure how old Splicer is, but it's great. Another thing I can do is I can just do a search for the school. How many people are having personal issues right now? How many people are having a concern with school policy right now? And that'll take 1665 and growing down to whatever that number is. And that's very helpful. The ability to track our responses are basically, it has served well. I'm not going to show this result. I don't think it's needed. And just to be extremely protective of our student data, this is a Google form. And I think I explained it conceptually what it looks like. Mr. Norman is a person who asked us to come up with an answer. He had found, I think, a freemium resource out there. I didn't feel overly confident giving student data out to a company that was going to have a freemium model, and eventually we'd probably hit a paywall and stop using it. I just didn't feel overly comfortable with that, and I knew I had the skills and the desire to learn to create a system that would work for us, and it has. He says that because of the surveys, we're able to proactively engage with students and offer them support. And unfortunately for us, we lost Mr. Garcia to another wonderful school. And he reached out, I reached out to him and he responded, this is how he feels. The Student Wellness Survey has provided a bird's eye view of overall stress levels and needs in the secondary school. Because it could be completed in just minutes on a regular basis, as it was very effective in giving the school counselor a macro view of the student's stress level. This could be shared with specific teachers and advisors. I feel it was very effective as a first step in providing data-focused interventions to to support student wellness. And the students also, their buy-in. They know it's quick. They know that somebody will read it. They know that action will be taken if needed. They know that they can reach out other times as well. And it has just served as one way that we reach out to students to show that we care. Looks like I have about 6 minutes left. My next steps is to learn more about Looker. We had a preview of it maybe just last Wednesday. So I'm excited to learn more, to take my spreadsheet that looks a little bit messy like this, which is kind of fun in retrospect in some ways, but also gives me a headache and I get nervous about making mistakes. I love the idea of going from that to something more like this. I need to learn more about VLOOKUP because that will help me make sure that if a student has a typo or possibly changes their English or classroom name during the school year or during their university, or I meant to say high school career, that we can still track their data. A VLOOKUP is one way that would work well. And I'm trying to think of a fast way to explain the other way. But basically, a trend can be going down, but that's a positive thing. So I need some research. And if you have any feedback, you can let me know. So like something, if I have the conditional formatting and a trend's going down, it might be actually what we want. We want less people to be stressed, or less people or more people to, if the opposite, if more people are feeling hopeful, we don't want it to automatically have the wrong color or look like give a false flag. So I just need to work that out. Right now I'm just manually making a decision call every month and highlighting the cells based on what I think, but I know there's a better way out there. So if any of you have any ideas, I would love it. Basically, we're trying to simplify. This is not my core passion project. I still teach classes. I support teachers as a instructional coach for digital learning. And this can't be something that consumes tons of time, but it's something that I want to continue to do to help our students and to help our school counselor. If you have any ideas, you can reach out to Twitter. I'm hoping that Twitter will be around for a long time, and I would love your feedback. And if you have any ideas, and of course, I want to be thankful to the wonderful, very few people behind Slides Mania. I used to think it was a huge company. Just last year, I learned that it was basically one wonderful lady and maybe a little bit of help, but I think she does a wonderful job. So that is my 15-minute warning or 5-minute warning. So roughly 4 minutes left. I would love any feedback if anybody has any, or ideas on how I can make it better either now. And I definitely wanted to reach out if you have ideas to learn more.
Hi, Ken. How are you doing?
Hey, James. Great to see you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant what you're doing, and I think little and often is the way. If you need any help with VLOOKUPs, just come talk to me anytime. You got all my contacts.
Thank you so
but yeah,
much.
we'd love when next time you come to KO, we'll try and arrange something. We can sit and have a bit of a chat and see what's what.
Yep.
But
I
yeah,
love that.
I would say that thing you suggested, you don't need any extensions. Sheets can do all of that without any extra help. It's just about design and playing with it a bit and getting your formulas right.
Yep.
So yeah. But also you might want to look at, is it a Google form they're putting in?
They're putting it into a form, and then of course it feeds to Sheet is where we work from.
Yeah, the VLOOKUP, the trick is basically if they've got a unique email address, which I assume they would have, then use that and just don't even ask them for their names.
I might do that. I would.
Yeah, that's where VLOOKUP will become really handy, and it gets rid of a lot of mistakes because
Excellent.
they've got to be signed in, and that's what I always do for all my Google Forms, because then I'm not trusting them based on their email address, based on their first and last name and so on.
Thank you so much. That's great feedback that I can take action on immediately.
All right, that was just my thought.
Hey, Ken, can I ask a couple follow-up questions?
Yes,
thanks for the presentation. I also found it really helpful. I think this is something that all schools should be doing, and this is a very actionable and easy way of doing it. First question, you asked earlier about kind of trends going up or trends going down. I was curious if you have kind of like a Likert scale. Is it on one side stress and on one side hopeful or something like that?
Got it.
If it is, I was maybe thinking separating the different stress and hopefulness values, and that might help you with trends that you want to see, one going up and one going down, perhaps.
Yep. I do have it separated. Yeah.
Oh.
I tried to keep it simple. I won't say a ton, but what I wanted to say is basically they have 1 through 5 for their level of stress, and then they choose one of those 6 descriptors. And then, so one is stressful and others upset, etc.
I guess I was just kind of picture it without having seen the form, but I was imagining something like having 2 different charts or graphs that would then show the hopefulness, hopefully going up, and then the stress hopefully going down. But you're on top of that. My second question was, have you thought about using data dashboards? Like, what is the Google product actually called? Isn't it called Data Dashboard from Google? I haven't actually used it before, but.
Yep. And James might know, I know it's almost time to move on. I think they just changed it to Looker, I think is the data dashboard. I think Data Studio.
That's it. Data Studio. Thanks, James. I was curious if you'd ever thought about using that.
I've thought about it. And that's something I want to learn how to do. Yes.
Yeah, it looks amazing. It seems like that would really help out. Now called Looker Studio. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yep.
Thanks, James.
Great. We're on the same wavelength, and I haven't taken that step yet, but I think that is the next step for me.
I'll follow you on Twitter, so please share that journey. I'm curious to see kind of how you take this further. It's really inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Christine.
Thanks, Ken.
Everyone. We'll get on to our next one. Have a great day, everyone.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye.